Okay.
Preparing to live stream the webinar, setting up your webinar for YouTube Live.
Yeah,
Done.
okay. You are online.
Okay. Welcome everybody to the Node.js N-API meeting on November 11th. Sorry we're late. This should have been 2 hours ago, but here we are nevertheless. So let's get started with the agenda, for which I shall have to not stop the live stream. That's a bad idea, but instead share.
Yeah, thank you.
Desktop one, yes, share screen. Okay, so right, here we are. This is the agenda. First up, tracking issue for modules we've noticed are ported. Have we had any movement on that?
Yes, Vincent updated his list, and I'm working on this list to select some good modules that we can propose workshop.
Yeah,
for
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, for the porting, for porting activities that we want to promote in the workshop.
Yep, here they are. Oh, okay, there are a few more now. That's good. Yeah, he's done a good job there, and so have you. I was just looking at the list as well, and I noticed that there are, for at least a few of them, they are basically waiting for Node.js 8 to like drop off the edge of the table kind of thing, and then they're going to start
same.
So it looks like we're going to have a lot more modules porting to an API in the new year, which is good.
Yeah,
just got to make sure to sort of remind them in case their schedules are too busy. You know, maybe have another look at the list.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. What's up?
Okay. For a moment I can't hear you. Sorry. Bcrypt is an example because it's all set for the porting is ready, and they decided to delay the switch to an API after December, when the 8 will go out of maintenance. So I'm searching on the list that Vincent did, and try to find a module that don't have the porting, or maybe issue opened about this about porting about an API port. Yeah.
Okay, all right, that's good.
Just a curiosity, in the list there is Node.js, for example.
Yeah.
That and if you go on a stable node, we have an initial porting that we documented. In the README.
Got an issue here?
No. If you go in the README, we have a section. N-API enabled modules, and here there is Node.js.
Oh yeah.
But they never used
pushed it upstream.
Yeah. So I think that this is very old now.
Yeah.
And yeah, we need to rework maybe on this. And what do you think about? Because Node.js is big big module.
Yeah, definitely should go with it. Yeah, I noticed it's one of the biggest native modules that there is. So yeah, it would definitely be worth it. Though I don't know who has the cycles to update it. Would you be willing to take this on?
Okay, I can take a look, and because here we have the same for Node Sqlite.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can take a look at all these modules, and maybe I will update the status on this table.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. So then let's see. Okay. So that's that. Okay. Code and learn session. Yeah, I don't know if we're gonna have a code and learn at the conference. So I'm not sure if we can do this at
Yeah,
Node.js.
I followed the thread on the admin,
Yeah.
and yeah, I saw that maybe we um, uh, we don't have the code learn this year.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, we do have the workshop, right? So we can just sort of take it offline afterwards and see how much interest we get. Because it is going to be during Collab Summit, right? So we might be able to get something going, but yeah, without a code and learn, it might be difficult because there is not really like a time slot for it.
Okay.
But yeah, let's see what we can do in the workshop and maybe get people interested, and then they can approach us.
But maybe we can write a guide to write to add a test on the Don API.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe this we can do this, and yeah, emphasize on README, and if someone want add that test, know how to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, so then let's see. All right, propose. Okay, do we need additional async worker variants? I think we could have used Kevin on this one, but we did land some, right? Like we were Lucas was working on the async progress queue worker, and last time the state was that he would look into just using a queue size of 0 for it, and I don't believe we've made any progress on that. But let me just make sure, because I haven't had a chance to look. All right, GitHub, Node.js, Node API polls. Let's see here, the async progress queue worker here. Okay.
Yeah, we have
Yeah. Okay. Wait, has this landed? No. Okay.
the test, yes, but these cannot be in 589.
Yeah.
This is my understanding.
Yes. Yeah, I'll open that in a second. I'm just curious. Well, create. Oh, what? Where's the thread safe function? Oh, it uses the top one. Okay. Okay, wait. Does he still use the queue here? Because the idea was that he would not use the queue, but rather use the thread save function. Okay. So there's that. He's still using the queue size of 1, which means he needs to do his own queuing, it would seem. Okay, all right. So I don't think we've had progress on this one. Okay, but this is the one that's going on now. Let's see. Yeah, so we need this was the one, the 589, eh? Oh boy, I need to review this. Okay, I'm gonna leave this open because I need to review it. So let's see, does this thing have the smart thingy? No, it doesn't. Why would it? Okay, so that was async progress queue worker. And I think, okay, so we have the on work complete. This is going on. Async progress worker, just document. All right.
Yeah, it's I just added the reference to README.
Good.
That was, yeah, it was
Yeah,
missing.
because that one is already in, if I'm not mistaken, right? So then yeah, just add the README, and we have the async progress queue worker in the queue, so to speak. And then we should pretty much be done with the variants, right? So where were we then?
Yeah.
Here. Okay, so that's what we have on the variants. The workshop, how is
Oh,
that going?
here,
Let's see.
yeah. I have a question. Maybe Jim, I have a question.
Where's the,
Jim, yeah, below. Huh.
here it is, right?
No.
At the very bottom.
At the bottom, yeah, at the bottom, yeah. Jim wrote a section for the workshop where he talk reference and yeah, about the weak reference. I think that these 2 points essentially are the reason for the weak reference, but I'm not sure about the second.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a valid point, but generally, for the purposes of the add-ons, the add-ons usually don't have cyclical references, right? I mean, yeah, I mean, what
Yeah,
you're saying there is valid, but it's most often not the case with add-ons, right? Because they usually just have a list of things that they need weak references to, and they need to be informed when it gets garbage collected. If they have like if they wish to mimic the JavaScript memory management model in native code, right?
yeah, yeah.
So if that's the case, then you would use weak references. But generally, the fact that objects reference objects is not as relevant on the native side, right? It's mostly relevant to the garbage collector itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think what is most important for add-on authors is to realize that if the reference is strong, then it will never be garbage collected, and so the memory will never be freed, right? On
Okay,
the native
yes.
side, a weak reference. So, but which is okay, right? But then they have a choice, right? Either they have a strong reference and they provide an API for explicitly indicating that this object is to be released. Like the example for that is like set interval, right, or set immediate, right? uh, you with set interval you get back an object, right? And you have to say clear or clear interval, otherwise the object stays there forever, right?
Yes.
So that's one option. You have two APIs, one to create the thing and one to destroy the thing. The other option is to use a weak reference, and then the garbage collector decides when to destroy the thing, right? and then you have the opportunity to find out that the thing was destroyed. So in one case, you remain in control as the add-on author, and you expect your users to explicitly release resources. And in the other case, you let the garbage collector decide, right? And so I think the most important point for add-on authors about weak versus strong reference is this, right? Is that
Yeah, okay.
if you have a strong reference, you need to provide an API with which to release it. Otherwise, it will never be released. Or you can have a weak reference, in which case the garbage collector lets you know that, okay, you know, you do what you need to do because this object will never be used again in JavaScript, right? And then
Yeah,
chances are you'll want to free the memory. But yeah, I mean, in terms of circular references, yes, you can, you know, you can end up in a situation where you have circular references, and if they're strong, then they will remain that way. Whereas if they are weak, then the garbage collector can still destroy the entire the entire ring and inform at each point about the native memory that also needs to be freed. So yes,
yeah,
this is a very good, it's a very good point. Although, you know, it might be, I don't know if it's the right point to make to add on authors, right? But yeah, you can certainly make it. So I'm good with that.
okay.
Okay, so then
Gabriel,
yeah.
before we move on, is there an example that if you have a strong reference that it shows how to provide the API for release?
Yeah, set interval is a perfect example for that, right? Set interval,
Okay.
because set interval provides an object, right, that is opaque, right, on the JavaScript side, and in case of Node.js, it is it has like a native equivalent, right? And so that object is not freed, right? So the function is keeps getting called until you call clear interval, right? So clear interval basically does not delete the JavaScript object, because you have no control over whether JavaScript objects are deleted or not, right? The only
Right.
thing you can do is store it in a variable, which means the JavaScript side now also has a strong reference to it because it's stored in a variable, and then you pass it to clear interval, in which case, you know, clear interval goes to the native side, frees all the related resources and like the event loop handles and everything, right? And then the JavaScript object is still around, but at that point it's just a sort of a hollow shell. And sooner or later the garbage collector is going to garbage collect it, but at that point it need not do anything on the native side, because the native side will have been taken care of explicitly, right?
Yes.
So
Right.
set interval is an example of that, and things like file descriptors are another example. You need to like say fs.close in order
Yeah,
for it to actually go away, right? So if you don't close it, then the file will remain open forever, because the native side will not do anything, right? So you have
Right.
fs.open, fs.close. Anytime you have these sort of bookend APIs, you have strong references.
Yeah. Okay.
So
And
so,
and in what circumstances would a programmer need to use a reference? What would be an example of that?
well, one very common example of using a strong reference is when you declare a JavaScript class on the native side. You know, if your API provides instances of a JavaScript class which are created on the native side, right? So at add-on initialization, you define a JavaScript class, right? So
Okay.
and then at some point later on in the life cycle of the add-on, you start providing instances of that class to the JavaScript side, right? And you may even expose the constructor to the JavaScript side, so that on the JavaScript side you can like say, you know, instance of, you know, is this instance an instance of that constructor, right? To do type validation and that kind of thing. And so you need to store a persistent reference to this constructor, because later on you may want to do this instance of check on the native side as well, right? And in order to use instance of, you need to have the constructor, right? But you've already given the constructor in the init, right? And so you need a persistent reference to it to check later, right? Because you don't get it back from JavaScript, so you have to keep it around sort of outside of the JavaScript world, but still valid.
Yeah.
So that's an example of a strong persistent reference.
But the same is for the simple example of object wrap, because
So
you are creating a JavaScript object and you need a reference, a persistent reference of the constructor.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So so define class is part of object wrap, right? So yes, you were right. I should have said object wrap because that's the topmost class where this is happening.
Yeah, for G, my idea was to show the simple example of object wrap.
Yes, I actually have it here.
Because you have the constructor, and the constructor is a persistent reference to a function. So it's a function reference that has a reference count set to 1.
So
and suppress the struct.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So let's see here. So basically, right. So initialize. So we have this class here, right? Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Okay, class test. So this is an object wrap example from our tests, right? So you create this class test, right? And let me see, where do you persist the constructor? So initialize. Okay, this is the static one. You call this from the actual add-on, and then you define class, right? Right here. Okay, and that's just static. Okay, but so let me see here. But I don't think we actually, do we? I don't know if we actually persist it in this case, so this may not be a good example. I don't see that we do. What is this value here? Test. This is a context reference. Oh, this is for static. Okay.
Yeah, we have the test. We have the example on documentation.
Okay.
Maybe Jim.
Okay. Well, okay. The test is not a good example because we are persisting a simple object. We're not persisting the actual constructor. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, we don't have a good example in our tests. Then I was hoping that the object wrap test would have it, but in the case of the object wrap, it's not typical usage, right? So normally the value returned from defined class. Where's defined class? Defined class. Yeah. So normally the value returned from defined class is the value that you would persist, right? You would store it in an API persistent so that you can create instances later. So then you would store this in a persistent, and then you would say like that persistent dot new instance, and then you would return that to JavaScript. So that's the typical usage in a real add-on. Okay, so I can close this now. Okay, so does that clarify things?
Yeah, that helps, and I'll continue to work on the narrative.
Okay.
And then Nicola, if you would you be able to create a simple example?
For the object wrap?
No, for a strong reference to a class, to a constructor. If not, I can definitely look at it.
We'll make a comment so you can use like you want.
Okay.
I'll do later.
Very good.
Okay.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
Okay, I will send all by mail.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Nicola.
All right, so that's the workshop. Okay, create matrix of tested methods. That's the next issue. Where are we on this one? Let me see. Okay, well, so let's do this here. Hello. Okay.
Sorry, I'm working on tests, but the work is on it's not complete, so
okay, yeah, no worries.
I need some other times. Sorry.
Okay. No worries. No worries. Let's see. So then, okay, Sqlite. Let's see here.
Yeah, that's still on my list.
All right.
And my time's been going into getting the workshop materials pulled together.
Okay, makes sense. Okay, no worries. All right. Okay, list of issues, node repo. Okay, yeah, I opened this already in some tabs, so I probably have this open a few times, but yeah, there's been a little bit of activity here. Yeah, we had this thing, which was caused by this thing. So yeah, so this crash here is something that has exposed an issue with the core API, which is that we cannot distinguish between when the environment is shutting down and when there is a simple pending exception. And so I'm discussing this in core. Did I open this here? Yeah. So trying to get some consensus on how we should do this, because you can consider this to be a Semver major change, right? To have this and to change the way the N-API preamble works to no longer return N-API pending exception. Because the problem is right now in core we have this here, right? So either the last exception is not empty, or you cannot call into JS, you return N-API pending exception. But that's not entirely correct, right? Because if you cannot call into JS, but otherwise there was absolutely nothing wrong in terms of exceptions, then if you return N-API pending exception, then when you attempt to retrieve the last exception, which is like N-API get and clear last error or last exception or something like that, when you do that, you get back undefined, like the JavaScript value undefined, right? And so,
Oh.
in Node add-on API, we try to convert that to an error, right? But
Mm-hmm.
our errors are subclasses of references, right? And so
Yes.
when you construct the error object, you are actually constructing a reference object, which means it calls N-API create reference at some point. But you cannot have a reference to JavaScript undefined. You can only have a reference to an object, right? And undefined is not an object. And so sooner or later
Mm-hmm.
it dies with a fatal error.
Yeah.
So that's the fundamental problem. Now, even if we introduce this new status, then we're still going to have to be very careful about how we deal with it, because it's easy to just fatal error out of the add-on, right? And then just bring down the whole Node.js with you. But that may not necessarily be the right way to go, right? Because ideally, if you are aware of the fact that you cannot call into JavaScript, then you should still be able to handle that situation and maybe release resources or shut down in some way, right? Other than fatal exit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I believe it makes sense to introduce this without Semver major, because this here is a bug. Like, this is wrong. Like, if you cannot call into JS, that doesn't mean you have a pending exception. That's just wrong, right? But given that we have made some pretty strong ABI stability commitments, I'm not sure if we can still fix it, right? So, because part of our commitment is that in response to a certain situation, our status will be this. Right now, if we change the status, then that is technically Semver major, unless it's a severe bug, right? In which case we can probably fix it. So I'm trying to figure out and trying to raise some discussion on whether we should consider this to be a bug or whether we should consider this to be Semver major. Because if it ends up being Semver major, then we're probably not going to fix it. Now, of course, there is a workaround. So if you do retrieve the last exception, then you can check if it's undefined, and if it is undefined, then you can behave differently, right? So
Mm.
you need not make the assumption that the last error is always a valid sort of exception, that it's it could be undefined.
Sorry.
So we could handle this on the Node add-on API side, and then basically status of N-API pending exception plus last exception is undefined equals cannot call into JS. So, you know, we could do this. We could do this downstream, but it would be good if core did it for us, because that's correct. However, then this discussion starts. So that's where we are with this thing, and still talking about it. So we may need to make some changes in Node.js N-API if this turns out to be Semver major. So that was one thing.
Hey, guys, I need to get off the call. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I had scheduled this when the meeting was scheduled earlier.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, go
Oh,
ahead.
no worries.
Sorry.
No, yeah, okay. No worries, Gabriel. And I'll be back in my office next week. So,
All right. Okay. And hopefully
okay.
I will remember to dial in at 8 rather than 10.
Yeah, yeah. Gabriel, thank you so much for doing the call.
Okay. No worries. No worries. Talk to you later,
okay.
Jim.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye, Jim.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so then that was one thing that sort of crept up, because that's a crash, and that's always pretty severe and intrusive. So then we had a few. We had a PR for this thing, and it needs work. So it needs like documentation and tests, and also needs to not throw an exception. So I think Lucas already commented on that. So then, yeah, that's pretty much the major, with a few minor doc changes from Michael, which I think we talked about last week, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, then I found other inconsistencies, and I Paragas and Michael already addressed the updates that
Excellent.
I requested. And Gabriel, I'm working on N-API on 29093, the set length property of function.
Oh yeah. Ooh, where is that? Wait.
So
what did I do? Here we go. Okay.
Okay, here you made some comments. I mean, about the documentation.
Yep.
I think that, but I was waiting for you.
Okay. If you need me to review it, I'll review it once more.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I need the review for the documentation, and hope to end the test this week. And yeah, I will need another review.
Okay. No worries. No worries.
So.
Oh wait, what? How do you do this again? There we go. What? No. Jump to. That's what I wanted. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So you need to add the tests. Okay. You got the docs and the changes and just the tests. Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
I need to add the test. Yes.
Okay. No worries. Okay. Cool. Excellent. Okay. I'm gonna leave that open and go back like this. Why do you do that? I want you to come here. Okay. So, right. Yeah, this is going to get fixed in 7.8. So I think we already have this in some places. Okay, so we've worked on this. This one we've agreed that it will be obsoleted by this guy, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, N-API get module. Okay, this is probably not going to happen. I'm just going to leave it there for sort of reference. All right, yeah. Okay, some long-standing issues, but these are pretty much the new ones. Okay, so then that was the core repo, and now module owners, right? That's the next one.
Yes.
Okay, module owners. I don't know. Have we had we've had a bunch of discussion on Node.js N-API. Okay, I can close this.
Yes, and there is a guy that opened an issue. I try to help him. And I don't know if you have another solution that could yeah, issues. Yes.
Which one?
It's the last help object wrap.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah, I was kind of keeping an eye on it, but not very closely.
So essentially, he has an object wrap, and in this object wrap has a list of elements, and he wants to create another object. Another class, so and he won't use
okay.
Methods of this class from JavaScript. If you see my example that I tried to yeah, essentially he won't do this, and in the second class, my item class, I created a method called that essentially create the use the constructor and return the wrapped object. I don't know if it's the right thing to do in this case.
All right, checking. Ah, okay, yeah. Yeah. Okay, my first observation is that, and then this is very academic, but still,
Okay.
yeah, try to avoid using global variables, right? Because they are not thread safe. And
Okay. Yes.
it gets complicated without them, but yeah, we should try not to give examples with global variables anymore. Unfortunately,
Okay.
there's no easy way to replace them, you know. So I'm actually working on that whole add-on class thing, to try to make that easier so that we don't use global anymore. But anyway, that's another thing that we need to talk about. But anyway, let me look at the actual thing. Like, okay, yeah, get items. Yeah, exactly. So let's see. You have my class in it, my class. Okay, yeah. So, okay, so this is the constructor, yeah. And now when you say get items, yeah, okay, my item new. Okay, wait a minute. Where's my item?
Below, at bottom.
Oh, okay,
It's,
right,
yeah,
right.
it's
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, you're doing the right thing, right? Like, you need two JavaScript classes. You need one for
yeah.
the one that returns the array, and then each item in the array is itself an instance of another JavaScript class. So yeah.
Yeah, okay, because you need a constructor for that class and use but now he's asking for something like this, but I think that it's not possible. Or maybe there is, okay. Oh, okay, I didn't saw the last.
Oh, wait a minute. So this elements I, well, which is just an integer, right? So my item new instance. Well, no, you can't, right? Because new instance is supposed to be, okay, I see. So he wants to call directly the constructor of the native
Yeah.
class.
Yes.
Ah, well, no, but sooner or later you need to go through the JavaScript constructor, because I mean, you're constructing a JavaScript instance, right?
Yeah.
So you need to
Yes.
go through the JavaScript constructor, which means you need to wrap it into a JavaScript value.
Yeah, it's mandatory.
Yeah,
So
pretty much. But
I don't know how.
I kind of get their point though, right? Like, why would you do that? Because then you go back, so you wrap it up in a JavaScript value, and then you end up calling the native side, which deconstructs it back into an elementary value, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, it is kind of backwards, but that's only because you're supposed to be able to call it from JavaScript, you know? So yeah, it's Yeah, it is what it is, but let's see. Let's see. Okay, well, so he did solve it then. So my item, this item equals TMP value. What the heck is that? Oh, okay. No. Please tell me he's not passing strings through a global variable. Okay. Okay, yeah. Init value. Eek. In the end, I can use dirgem. I don't know. Oof. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like they're setting it here and then using it here.
Yes.
And thereby avoiding the creation of a JavaScript value.
Yeah, but
Oof. It's kind of okay-ish, but it shouldn't be going through a global variable like that. That's like, yikes.
but at this point, why he won't create a class? So he can simply return an object from its I don't know.
So you were cutting out a little bit. He can simply return an object from
From its first object wrap class. He
yeah,
don't
like a
need,
plain object.
yeah, like a plain object. He don't need to create these second object wrap class, because my thinking was that okay, he need to do something with this method that I called get item here.
Yeah.
But he only need to read data. He just he can only return the plain object from the first method that he are he implemented in the first object wrap class.
Yeah, I'm thinking like maybe it's that you know, the code base might be more extensive than this, and
Yeah,
so
yeah,
you know
because
there might be a good reason why the objects in the array have to have their own methods, right? So yeah, I mean, but basically returning an array of instances of a different type, that's a valid use case, but then this is how you have to do it, right? Like that's just the way it's done. So you know, constructing them like this is actually not the end of the world, right? And you're avoiding wrapping things up and then unwrapping them in the item constructor. So yeah, but I mean, for performance, it's probably better if the arrays are large. I think maybe performance is in the background here. Like the reason why they don't want to, you know, like say like NAPI number new, you know, in
yeah,
when they make the array, and then you know, value in the constructor. You know, I think that's probably why.
yeah,
And in that case, yeah, in that case, there's not much else that can be done. There's not much else that can be done. Yeah. So yeah. The only thing that I can think of that could be done here is to not use global variables and just use like a class instance that gets passed around, you know. And then here in NAPI callback info, you do like info.data, cast that as the class, and then retrieve TMP value from the instance rather than from a global variable. but that's the common pattern for add-ons in general, right? To avoid global variables. So that's the only thing I can think of here.
Mm.
But
So
you know, if it works for them, that's fine. Like,
okay,
you know, right? It seems that it's working, and so
yeah, but he was afraid. He's afraid to maybe if there is some problem.
yeah.
But,
Well, I mean, it's single threaded, and it is synchronous, right?
yes.
So there should be no problem, right? Because you know, TMP value, you know, I mean, he's setting TMP value here, right? And then he's immediately calling new, right?
Mm-hmm.
In which case it will be read. So it should be okay, right? It's just not a very not a very good way of writing it, because you're using a global variable to pass things around. It's not kosher, but well, it's a solution, right? If you want to avoid
Yeah.
wrapping things. But actually it's kind of, yeah, it's kind of no, there's nothing we can do here. I mean, the only other thing that we could do is to use an external, right? Like you can construct new with an external, and then the external has all the native data in it, and here you retrieve the data from the external, right? So instead of
Yes.
wrapping a number, you're wrapping an external, which means you could pass any number of things in there, right? You could pass like a giant structure in there, and the structure wouldn't have to be heap allocated. The structure could live on the stack here, right?
Yeah, and yes.
So that would be the only other solution, but you still have to call into the engine to retrieve the item. You know, there's just no other way.
Yeah, but on what kind of data here really want to pass, because in this example is an integer.
Yeah, but I think, I mean, I'm
But
assuming that that's just a placeholder for something, for some
okay,
internal application data, right? I mean,
yeah,
it's just an example, but basically the example illustrates the pattern, and yeah, I don't think they have a better choice than this, you know, because this solution does avoid converting to JavaScript values and then converting back to native values. It does avoid that step, right? So then the only thing that you can do, if avoiding that step is important, then the only thing you can do is make sure that it is synchronous, right? So that, you know, so that
mm,
you don't get like, you know, you set it here, but then something happens, it changes the value, and then you end up constructing with the wrong value. You have to make sure that it's synchronous, and it is. So in this case, it should be okay. So okay, I can comment saying that, you know, it's not ideal,
yeah,
but
okay.
otherwise
If you
it's okay.
yeah, it's okay. And
Yeah.
so I was thinking that yeah, you're right. It's not ideal. Set the constructor like static,
Yeah.
and but maybe I could use a structure or a class to wrap the constructor and pass it around. No.
Yeah, hold on. Let me see. There was an example somewhere. Hold on. Okay. I think it's on the V8 side. Docs 12. C++ add-ons. Context aware. Yeah, so this is an old example, but I think it's still relevant, and it's also relevant in N-API. So yes, you have a class called add-on data, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then in module init, see, you heap allocate one, you store it in an external, and then when you create the methods, you pass it as the data. See, see, you pass the external here as data.
Yes.
See, and then the binding will have that data, and then they can each, and then in each binding you do this. So So this is the way to do it, and this should actually work now because we've landed that patch that deletes all the references. When the environment quits. So that has landed now, and it also landed on 12. So if you create a structure on the heap in your add-on init, and then you wrap it, and then you attach it to the exports object with a weak reference, then it will be freed when the add-on is unloaded, meaning when the environment quits. It will actually be freed, so it won't be a memory leak. So then after you have that pointer, it's your responsibility to basically create all your functions and basically decorate your add-on using that pointer. So make sure that all the N-API property descriptors, they have it in the data field, they have the pointer in the data field, and when you N-API create function, you pass the pointer as the data, and then in your accessors and in your callbacks, you just retrieve it using like env.data, and that's it. Or if you're in N-API core, then N-API gets CB info and then give it a data pointer, and then you just cast it and you have it. So that would be the way to avoid it. It's not as convenient, but it's the way to go. And actually so do you know for object wrap, we have static methods and we have instance methods, right? So if you think about it, an add-on, if we wanted to create a class that is an add-on, right? And so to have you avoid having to pass these things around like that, right? The solution would be to have like an object wrap, something that's similar to object wrap, which doesn't have anything but instance methods, right? And instance accessors, right? And then what you do is you give it the exports object, and it defines all these instance methods and instance accessors on the exports object, right? And then those instance methods are not really JavaScript class instance methods. They are your bindings, right? But because they are instance methods, they have access to this, right? And then the pointer that you pass around becomes the this pointer, like the C++ this pointer. And then you can store and you then instead of global static variables, you have like class member variables which you have access to in your bindings, because your bindings are members, are instance members, not static members, right?
Yes.
So that's the basic idea that I'm trying to do. But basically, I have to copy the object wrap definition, and then I have to like cut out all the static this, static that, static the other thing, and just make people understand that it's not, even though it's instance, it's really static, right? Because it's not, it's instance on the C++ side, but it is static on the JavaScript side, right? It's not a class, it's just an add-on. So yeah, lots of fun. But anyway, before we go, because there's only 1 minute left, I wanted to ask, how are we doing on 2.0.0?
We need to land some other things. Just okay. And we need to modify the package JSON, but it's not a Node API. You are on a stable.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I can't find it. Node.API issues. Yeah, I was surprised. It should be somewhere on the first page, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Next release too.
Okay, you've done this.
Yeah. And we need only to update the JSON format on package JSON. I can do this later, and I will check, but maybe we. I think that Michael yesterday merged this. Oh no, we need to merge the documentation here, the 588, 587, and update package JSON.
This
I don't
one's
know.
merged.
Yes, but I think that Kevin needs to work on I don't know, trace a function non-blocking call.
Yeah.
This is because Kevin has different. Okay, this is the paracast that he needs to work on that other but Michael, I think that he merged this weekend. Yeah,
Yep.
yesterday. Yeah, so maybe Kevin now or this week will work on the other thing. So this trace function and non-blocking call. Yeah, I think that for the next week we can start to create this new release.
Sweet. Okay,
Yeah,
that's great.
it's a lot of things. There are a lot of things.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Oh, it's good. It's going to be a good release.
yeah, sure.
Okay. All right. I think that's pretty much it, right?
Yes.
All right, then let me go back to stop share.
And yeah, I think that it's all. And I hope to hear you next week or before.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
all right. Talk to you then.
Yeah. Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.